Welcome and thank you for joining us tonight. We're going to get started right at 6 o'clock, so I'll give a bit of a countdown until we get going. We have 4 more minutes to go. Thank you again, everyone, for joining us tonight. We have 3 more minutes before we get started. Thank you to those of you just joining. We have 1 more minute before we get started tonight. All right, it is now 6 o'clock, so we are going to get started. So welcome and thank you for taking the time to join us for the City of Kingston's online engagement session for the Rotary Park improvements. My name is Nancy Knight, and I'm a communications officer from the City of Kingston, and I will be moderating tonight's session. Behind the scenes tonight, we also have Heather Brown, who will be acting as our technical producer. So before we get started and I introduce our panel, I have a couple of housekeeping items to share. So first off, this session is live streamed to YouTube and recorded. So to protect your privacy, all participants have their video turned off and have been muted, and the chat functionality in Zoom is turned off. Next, we know that sometimes technology troubles do happen. There is a list of common challenges on Get Involved Kingston, including what to do if your audio or video aren't working. Please note that you're also able to adjust your view options so that you can see both the presentation and the members of the project team at the same time. If for some reason your internet connection does go down, you can call into the meeting at the number you see on the screen. So please write it down just in case. The number is 613-453-5818, and the webinar ID is 853-2408, 6472. You can also follow live on YouTube, where this session is closed captioned. We are going to do our best to help you with any technical problems that do arise, but sometimes the easiest way to resolve any issues is to log out of Zoom and then rejoin the meeting. So you can do that using the link that you received in the registration confirmation email that you used to join tonight. Today, we're going to provide a question and answer period following the presentation. So if you do have a question at any point during the presentation, you're welcome to use the Q&A feature, but I will hold your questions until we reach that question period. The Q&A feature can be found on the bar at the bottom of the screen. So to ask a question, you simply type into the question area. You're also welcome to raise your hand to speak and ask a question during the Q&A. To do that, please use the raise hand function that can be found following these steps. Click on the Q&A and a pop-up will appear. There will be multiple options. Choose raise hand. So I'm going to be monitoring for this, and I will acknowledge you and then turn on your microphone so you can ask a question or make a comment. Please note that if we don't get to all of your questions tonight, all of the questions and answers will be summarized on the project page on Get Involved Kingston. And you'll also have the opportunity to share your feedback in a survey on that same Get Involved Kingston page before January 12th. So on your screen now, you'll see the guidelines for participation. So if you've joined us before for an engagement session, they might look familiar to you. These guidelines for participation were developed as part of the city's public engagement framework, and to make sure that we really can all join together and share ideas and be respectful and open. So I'm going to leave this up on the screen for about 30 seconds so that you have the opportunity to read them. If there are any concerns about these guidelines, please let me know by using the raise hand function. All right, seeing no objections to these guidelines for participation, we're going to proceed into the online engagement session following these guidelines. I'm now going to pass this over to Shanda Sames, who is the project manager.
Welcome, everyone. Thanks for attending tonight's session on this supposedly snowy evening. We're here to talk about improvements in Rotary Park. We'll start off by introducing our speakers tonight. If our speakers can turn on their videos. First, we have Brad Brennan, president of the Limestone Board and Boat Club. They are a not-for-profit recreational community-run club. And we have Neil Unsworth, Parks and Shoreline Manager in Engineering Services. And then there's me, Shanda Sames, a Parks and Open Space Coordinator, also in Engineering Services. And Nancy Knight, who's already been introduced, who has already introduced herself, Communications Officer, Communications and Customer Service Experience. Next slide, please. To give a little bit of background on the improvements, we'll start off in the Limestone in 2018. The Limestone and Boat and Board Club had proposed to partner with the city to develop and operate a community-run small craft club in Rotary Park. Their proposal aligns with the vision and amenities planned in the Waterfront Master Plan for Rotary Park. However, when the club originally approached us, the plans for Rotary Park were planned for 10 years down the road. But since the club was interested in contributing funds and services to support the proposed works, we're able to advance some of the work ahead of the schedule. So then council had approved the partnership in principle, conditional on the club being able to secure adequate funding to support their associated responsibilities. This work would be done in phases. So the first step in the partnership was to develop a concept for Rotary Park. So the club had hosted a community consultation in 2018 in the park of the concept plan and proposed improvements. It was well received at the time. Then in 2019, the club had constructed a dock, small craft access ramp, as well as a temporary storage shipping container to be able to operate their club in Rotary Park. And now in 2022, the club proposes to advance their boat shed building, and a refined plan was developed. And we'll show that a little later in the evening. So the next steps after this meeting is to take in public feedback and report to council, seek approval on the building in the new year. And if approved, the Limestone Boat and Board Club will advance their work, starting with construction in the spring, and will plan to be completed by the end of the year. Next slide, please. So this was the original concept that was presented in 2018 to the public or residents in the public meeting. Some of the improvements to kind of highlight that are proposed to be improved in the fullness of time includes different widths of pathways to connect from the existing waterfront pathway through the woods and back to the driveway at Coverdale Drive, a gravel parking lot, and a future connection to the off-leash dog park on the east side of the off-leash dog park. A boat dock and a small craft boat launch was proposed, and obviously the Limestone Boat and Board Club boathouse and storage area north of the off-leash dog park. Next slide, please. Now I'll pass it over to Brad to explain more about his club and what they've done to date and their current proposed improvements.
I'll just wait for the administrator to turn my video back on. As it is saying, I can't share my video because the host has stopped it. So. So welcome everybody. I see lots of participants and I very much value, I know that everybody values your opinions and comments, and we welcome it very much as we've continued this project over the last 5 years. Essentially our Boat and Board Club operates non-motorized participant activities. So stuff like kayaks and surf skis, paddle boards, offshore rowing, things, and we do have a couple motorboats that are associated with us for safety reasons. Essentially, our mandates and our mission statement, guiding principles, they're all on our website at limestonebravobravoCharlie.com. I just don't have a lot of time to go into them, but essentially, we're trying to enhance the availability of water sports and recreation in the Collins Bay area. It's a great stretch of water. It's something that we enjoy using all the time. We just want to make it more accessible for everybody in the community. Typically, we focus on our fundamentals kind of stream of things with sport, which means that we're looking at basic introductory activities for canoe kayak, for rowing, for a little bit of sailing, but basically anything to get people out and active at fundamentals, and then an active for life kind of participation. So these are recreational things, sport and fitness, gathering, team building, all of those kind of great activities. And we have a range of memberships from community memberships that's kind of a punch card system that starts at $25 kind of thing, up to family memberships and individual memberships. And typically we run about 30 to 50 individual members that use club equipment. There's no public stuff that's stored inside, but the last couple of years we've averaged somewhere around 200, 250 individual participants in our other programs, so our youth programs, our teen programs, our learn to race kind of stuff, our get fit programs, just all around safety programs and activities. So we've offered things that are subsidized by our not-for-profit status so that we can keep everything really nice and affordable. For example, our children's camps are less than $60 a day, which is great for being able to offer full day service for young kids up to teenager kind of age. And then after that, our project, as you can see here, involves a smaller boathouse. It's 30 by 45 feet. And everything is off grid. So there's a little bit of a solar capacity there just for lighting and being able to see and light the building and everything. But this would store all of our equipment. And then adjacent to that is labeled a fenced storage area, which is something that we would be administering. We had a lot of outdoor storage and public storage. So people who bring their kayaks and don't necessarily want a car top would be able to access this space, and it would be something that's a little bit more secure. And then we'd have this ability to have the space that we can operate within instead of the temporary sea can that we have there right now, which is, I have to admit, a little bit of an eyesore, but it's not planned to be there for forever. It's something that we do really want to move on and build with the park. The access pathway that's seasonal, so it does allow for a little bit of vehicular traffic to come down, move our equipment around, boats and trailers and whatnot, so it stays nice and tidy. And then the gravel parking lot there for access to alleviate any space issues that we do have in the main parking lot there. And the great thing is that it's something that's off the general path of activities in the park, so it would be phased over the summer, but it doesn't disrupt any of the park picnic, anything else that's over there. And it is something that is made out of precast concrete. So the panels are textured. It's a great system that our friends at Anchor Concrete have helped us out a lot with. So it's a local company that's got a modular system that gets lifted into place. And then after the conclusion of any of our operations at any time, that's something that gets disassembled and moved back out of there and filled in for a nice little lawn and picnic area after. But anything that we have going on after that, I welcome your questions later on, and thanks for the opportunity for sharing.
Sorry, I forgot to unmute. Thanks, Brad. Next slide, please. In developing the more refined plans, we studied the site with Brad more closely, and the woodlands in this proposed improvement area is generally low quality, but we'll highlight some of the trees and understories that are proposed to be impacted. There are several ash trees that are affected by emerald ash borer here, and a lot of them are already dead, like in the image to the top right. The orange on the plan kind of highlights some of the ones that are already dead. We propose to remove approximately 20 of those dead trees and trunks. Approximately 300 square meters of invasive buckthorns understories are proposed to be removed. They're mostly in the proposed parking lot area, but there are also some that are scattered in the park. As for the non-ash trees, there's a poor leaning apple tree that is about 30 centimeters trunk diameter and a 4 cherry trees, one being 20 centimeter trunk diameter and 3 15 centimeter trunk diameter that are in fair condition, that are to be removed near the building area. And there's also one 15 centimeter trunk diameter cherry tree proposed to be removed at the parking lot at the south end. And that one's in fair condition. Next slide, please. There's also some fairly good quality trees in the proposed development that we had adjusted the plans and the pathways for the pathways, parking lot, and building locations to ensure we protect them. To highlight, starting from kind of the north to the south, there are 3 multi-stem ironwood trees and 4 centimeter trunk diameter maple sugar just north of the pathway in the building. Image of that is to the top right, illustrating those trees. There's a 50 centimeter trunk diameter cherry tree behind the building area that we're trying to protect. And near the pathway junction that's proposed, there's a 25 centimeter ironwood tree and a 40 centimeter diameter sugar maple tree that we've avoided in the alignments of the pathway. Near the parking lot area and the parking entrance area, we had considered the location of the 30 centimeter and 60 centimeter trunk diameter pine trees and the multi-stem cedar trees in the layout of the improvement. And these are all the nearby good quality trees that we will be protecting. Next slide, please. Any questions?
Thanks, Shanda, for your great presentation. And Brad, we are going to move into that question and answer session now. So just as a quick reminder, you're welcome to add your questions into the Q&A. I will read them out loud and ask our team to answer. You're also welcome to raise your hand. I'm going to be watching for this and I'll acknowledge you and let you know when it's time for you to unmute and ask your question. Another quick note, if we don't get to all of the questions tonight, please know that we will answer all of these questions on our Get Involved Kingston project page. And starting tomorrow, there will be that opportunity for you to complete an online survey before January 12th to share any additional comments you might have. So I invite all of our panelists to please go ahead and turn your cameras back on and we will get started. So the first question here, excuse me, is for Brad. How many members will have access to that new building? If you could answer that one live for us, that would be wonderful.
I was just going to type that to Wendy. Thanks very much for your question. Basically, we have an electronic system that, much like a key fob system, that we plan to put into the building so that individual members that need access to club equipment have access that way. And if it's something that is with the fenced area for community folks who store things in that area, then the same kind of thing applies. So we'll have electronic locks on it that are Bluetooth or coded for each person. So we do have a record of who goes where and when. And we do have individual sign-up times to avoid any complications with programs that are operating during the days.
Thanks, Brad. So the next question I have here is for Shanda. Tara has asked, will there be any in-water work with the dock? They have thought that it would be, they've read that it might be part of the improvements.
The dock work has already been done. I don't think there was some. I think Brad would, you developed the had done the construction. I don't know if Brad could help me out on that.
Yeah, no problem. We did commence the building of the pier and the head for the pier link to the dock. That's all complete now, so it's all flush. There is an accessible kind of fitting that fits on that dock so that people can access that publicly, and it kind of helps people to get into the water from the height of the dock. And then there's access onto our low dock for membership. Or I mean, generally it's being used a lot for all sorts of things right now, but it's there for people to use. If you'd like me to answer the two questions for Wendy and Chris that are there, I can do that right now as well.
Sure, go ahead. Thanks, Brad.
Yeah, so the capacity for the new storage building, right now we're well past our capacity for the container, and it's pretty well jam-packed. Right now we have about 60 pieces of equipment, which are about 30 or so kayaks. A lot of them are kids size appropriate watercraft, so small kids kayaks instead of big ones. And then the outside, we estimate that we can hold 20 to 30 kayak canoe kind of pieces in the 600 square feet of racking space. So that'll be an outside piece. But definitely the building is there to allow for us to expand operations a little bit, but definitely keeping it within as small a footprint as possible. And with the prefabricated pieces from Anchor Concrete that we have, they give us the biggest span possible, so we can move things around inside to try and stack and rack as best as we can. But it gives us about the storage space of 4 containers, just because we can't have access to them the way it is right now. And there's no washroom or washing facilities right now in the building planned. So it is off grid. There is a well that's there that services the bathrooms and change rooms that are already provided at Rotary Park. So we're not planning on trying to bring anything further to the building at this time anyway. It's we'd have to run a water line from that well service, and it's not necessarily, doesn't necessarily have the capacity to increase things very much more. So there's just a storage building. There's no washrooms or anything, no septic or anything like that there.
Thank you, Brad. We do have another question that came in for you here from Phil. For Brad, Shanda mentioned the parking lot will be shared by the dog park users, letting dog park users to the park off the main road. Is there a relationship between the boat club and the dog park, or is this a courtesy neighbor offer by the boat club for dog park users?
Thanks very much, Phil. It's basically a good neighbor relationship that we have with the dog park folks. They very much enjoy their dogs anyway, enjoy the small boat ramp and stuff like that goes down into the lake. That makes it easy for their pups to get in the water and out of the water. It's something that we have the parking lot situated so that it would be a mutual neighbor kind of thing. And then later on, I think the plan is for the city to link those two pieces.
Thanks, Brad. Neil, please go ahead and jump in. See your hand up.
Sorry, thanks. Yeah, just to add on a little bit to what Brad has shared. As part of the condition of the approval of the boat club being permitted in the park, council agreed that some improvements that were already planned in the waterfront master plan, such as pathway and trail improvements, would be done as part of the boat club improvement project. So we're getting that benefit. It's being offered by the club. So the pathway system that's being developed will be open to the public. It's part of the park system. There's no exclusive outdoor space for the boat club in their development project, with the exception of they are proposing a fenced-in storage area for outdoor storage, and that would be exclusive for club use. But of course, the residents in the community can use that via the club. But the parking lot and the pathways and all the outdoor improvements that are being made as part of this project are part of the park formally and open to access for all.
Thank you, Neil. I do see that there was a couple questions that Brad has already answered. So fantastic. Thank you, Brad. I am going to just read those out for those who are listening in tonight. The first question was whether or not facilities and equipment will be available for the broader community or private members only. So Brad answered, yes, there is. We have a community membership that starts at $25 for recreational equipment, essentially a pay-for-use model for the community. The next question was how many cars will be able to fit in the proposed new parking lot? And Brad has answered that 8 regular plus 3 accessible. Neil, if you have anything to add for that, please go ahead and jump in.
No, I think that's right. We are working on the parking lot configuration. Right now, we wanted to propose to the community through this plan that we can do this parking lot without impacting any of the existing high quality trees. There's a couple of dead ash in there that have to come out, but that site would have 8 to 10 stalls. There is a potential that if we see a good uptick in the usership from the dog park folks who are currently parking informally without permission against the no parking signs on the road, that we might be able to grow that as well, but that would be a future consideration.
Thank you, Neil. I have a question from Tara from Turtles Kingston. They want to bring awareness to a gravel parking lot as it may attract nesting turtles. We currently don't know the turtle nesting habits in this park, but it is something to consider and can be mitigated with turtle fencing. So I'll put that out to Shanda and Neil and Brad as well, if you would like to comment on that.
Yes, we could consider that when we do the construction of the pathways and the parking lot. But it is also quite a ways in. We'll study that.
Please go ahead, Brad.
Thanks, Tara. We've spent quite a bit we spent the last 4 summers right through a spring, summer, fall in the park and running around quite a bit with our nature programs and everything. We have found lots of fun turtles that have been in there, but always in the floodplain area. We haven't found anything back past the extent of that yet. Especially there's a whole bunch of snappers that come into the nice grassed and forested area that are closer to the pavilion and close to the bathrooms that lots of our young folks have had a great time seeing as they hatch and come forward. So we're very much always looking out for those, and we have done some biological surveying, and there obviously nothing hugely detailed, but we do have it over and over again every week to try and communicate with our campers and participants what kind of biology there is in the area. So we are really, really sensitive to that.
Thank you, Brad. And Tara has added another comment as a follow-up, just for our awareness. Turtles can travel kilometers to find nesting habitat. Thank you for sharing that information, Tara. We'll just pause for a moment here to see if any more questions come in tonight. We do have another question here. Brad, I see your hand up to answer. The question is, will there be bike parking included? Please go ahead.
Yeah, for our, we have the majority of our participants actually do come by bike. So they are, lots of people walk, lots of people ride their bikes from as far away as 10 kilometers. So we do have some spots that we are planning on having some bike racks and that kind of stuff that can be moved inside or out of the way during the winter months. Oh, and as an aside, that lots of the kids are kind of the convoy with each other to camps and stuff. So we would really like to have bike parking.
Thank you, Brad. We'll just pause again here, please. We welcome more questions. If you haven't thought of anything tonight or you think of something a little bit later, please do remember that there is that survey that will be available tomorrow morning where you can add any other questions or comments that you have. Okay, I'm not seeing any more questions coming in, so we are going to move on to our last slide of the evening. Oh, let me just take that back. I do see another question just popped in here. Thank you very much. So will there be signage for KBBC? Brad, please go ahead.
All of the signage that we've been in touch with the city of Kingston has to go through their approval of everything first. So they're definitely, I don't see there being anything that's a large plastic sign or anything. We've already got people who have volunteered to make nice wooden signage or work with the city on keeping a standard design for things we were assuming, but Mr. Unsworth can probably add a little bit more to that about specific standard signage.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks, Brad. I think it would be nice for the project to consider information signage about the club so that when residents come by, they want to know how to get involved, that they can see some contact information, website, links, all that sort of stuff. I think Brad already has that on site in a smaller format at the dock. And a description of how the club kind of generally operates for those people who don't have access to the internet right there on the spot. But yes, any sort of broader promotional or wayfinding signage might be considered as part of the agreement with the club, but it would be styled in a way that fit the park aesthetic. And I don't see any concerns with us being able to achieve that with this partner group. They've been pretty accommodating. I think maybe one final comment from me, Nancy, would be just that that question came from Councillor Wendy Stephen. I just don't know if we recognize that we had her in attendance today with any of the other other residents, but that was the local district councillor. So thank you for joining us today, Wendy.
Thank you for that, Neil. And before we move on, I do see a comment here in the Q&A from Phil. This is a fantastic program organization that benefits the mental and physical health of members of our community. We need more programs like this club. Thank you for sharing that comment, Phil. Okay, so thank you again to everybody for participating tonight and sharing these wonderful questions. Before you sign off, I'd like to ask you to complete a brief evaluation poll just to let us know how we did tonight. So that should have popped up on your screen. And while that poll is up, just a couple of reminders before you log off. As I mentioned earlier, you have an opportunity to visit Get Involved Kingston to add your comments to that online survey that will be available until January 12th at 4 p.m. Input from this engagement session tonight and that survey will be shared on the Get Involved Kingston project page. If you have signed up to receive updates about this project, you'll be notified when all of that is live on the site. If you haven't signed up to receive those notifications, please reach out to Shanda and ask to be on the project list. All right, everyone, thanks again for your time tonight. We will end this engagement session now. I hope you have a wonderful evening.